one of my mom's coworkers had mentioned that she had seen me out of everybody in the stands, over 70,000 plus people. And then I started meditating, and one day I just woke up with such a sense of clarity in my peace and what I wanted to do and my overall message and purpose for the world.
Quenton Garrett is a father and a husband who has dedicated himself to being an inspiration to all he encounters. Quenton has created an environment where people can feel comfortable through the sharing of relatable, personal experiences. Quenton has embraced his uniqueness and strives to continually excel past the person that he was yesterday on the journey of constant self-growth. Just from a minute of talking to Quenton before the broadcast, I know you guys are going to love this conversation. He's an authentic dude. He is a unique dude who is helping a lot of people already at the young age of 25. And we're going to talk about his journey as well as how his journey relates to you on your own journey of constant self-growth. When you take away even just one thing from the show, all that we ask is you share this show with just one other person who could use Quenton's message as well. You're the reason the show has grown to almost 300 episodes over the past 2 years, and I'm grateful to you for being the best part of the Be Better team. Without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, all the way from Alabama, Mr. Quenton Garrett. It's great to have you, brother.
Man, great to be here. Thank you again for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, and the opportunity to be able to spread my message.
Absolutely, man. So you're getting your bachelor's degree right now in psychology. And how far into your degree are you right now?
So that's the tricky question. I actually go to online school as well as going to in-person university. And so what I'm doing is trying to take one course or one transcript and transfer into the other. So I have the possibility, if all things go as planned, I can be done by the spring or by the summer.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, congrats on your journey there. I mean, you're going to school. You've got your podcast, the Truth Tales podcast. You've got one little girl with another on the way, which is super amazing. So congrats there. That's huge.
Yes. Thank you.
And you also serve, as you said, it's called an RBT. Is that the role that you serve?
Yes, a registered behavior technician. And so
What does that look like?
It's running a therapy session for kids, particularly on the autism spectrum. We run clinical therapy sessions as well as school sessions and in-home sessions for kids to try to implement strategies to help enhance their ability to cognitively think, as well as decrease any maladaptive, which is inappropriate, socially inappropriate behaviors, while teaching them social skills as well.
That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful. You're up to a lot at 25 years old. I mean, you could have chosen just one, and people would say, wow, Quenton's up to a lot, but you got a podcast, you've got what you do as an RBT, you've got school, you've got 2 children. So what led you on this path of, because it's obvious just from looking from the outside in and from what you've said, that you really just want to make a positive difference in the lives of other people. Where did that come from? What started you down this path of growth and contribution?
I think it all started when I was 11, and that's when I kind of, lost my father. And so that was a tough thing for me at 11 years old to kind of go through that and not have any type of outlet on how to face my problems and acknowledge them. And so after that, I knew that I had a special type of gift to where I can be relatable and socially receptive, or more receptive. People are more receptive to me and what I have to say. And so after everything, and not really knowing it until maybe a year ago or so when I started my podcast, that it was something about the passion that I felt helping others. And that's really what kind of led me into it, which, like I said, I always knew I had a gift, but I didn't really acknowledge it and use it to its full potential until recently.
What is that gift? You said it lightly, but how would you define that gift that you have, and when did you realize it?
So what I mean by gift, which is not to say I'm better than anybody else, but I have, I think purpose would be better use of words, as I feel driven and have find a passion in helping other people. And since I'm so passionate about it, it brings a new level of dedication to my work, and a new level of relatability to my content, as well as provides a comfortable and more down to earth environment for my listeners for the show, so that way that they can be more receptive to the message I have to give them. And it's something that I always, like I said, I've always known I had since I was younger. I've been spiritually intact, if you would say, with my deeper spiritual self since I was little. Every holiday, my mom wanted me to pray because she said, you know, you're my little preacher, things like that. and, and so ever since then, like I said, I've known that I've had my knowledge of what I expected for myself was much bigger than what I knew at that moment. And but to feel the way I do about helping others is truly something that I could say started um, maybe at the beginning of the year, where it really reached its peak, uh, where it's at right now. Definitely, probably at the beginning of 2023.
What happened in the beginning of 2023 in order for you to realize that you're at the peak of understanding of what your gift is and how that's led to your purpose? Was there a specific event? Was it a specific emotion that you felt?
It was uh, like I said, you know, I mentioned before we got on the show, I pledged or went through the process of going through the intake process of the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Now, doing that with everything else that I've been doing, as far as working with the podcast and things like that, and trying to balance that workload from studying the material about the fraternity, it just put me in a place of seclusion and like really just if you know anything about LeBron James, he goes into his dark 30 where he kind of, you know, secludes himself from everything, the social media, things like that. And so after that happened, that was November of last year. And after that, it was kind of hard for me to come back into reality and understand that what my purpose was is the reasoning behind everything that I do. And I had gotten into a place of depression. I've gotten into a place of anxiety, a place where I felt like I had to carry all the burden. And I remember it was February 9th with me and my wife's anniversary. We were out to dinner, and I had told her, I said, this battle that I'm facing, it's either going to be something that I conquer or something that, you know, ultimately will bring, you know, sadness to not only myself but the people around me. And I just prayed and prayed, and then I started meditating. And one day I just woke up with such a sense of clarity in my peace and what I wanted to do and my overall message and purpose for the world, both personally, family wise, and community and globally.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, brother. I know that that's a recent part of your history, and you know it's not always easy to share those times, but sharing those times helps other people who may be going through those times. And when I was in my early 20s, when I was 21 specifically, I'm 29 now to give you reference, I also went through a similar period of time, and it was a period of several years where I didn't know at the time that I was depressed and anxious. But looking back, it's very easy to see. I mean, it got to the point where I didn't want to leave my apartment. I was unhappy with my body. I was unhappy with myself. I still went to work and performed at work and was making the money, but I was unhappy, right? And I felt the same way. I felt I'm either going to find the light in my life or this is going to overtake me, right? And I'm actually reading a book right now. I'm not sure if you've ever read it. It's called what's it called? It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Outwitting the devil.
Have you heard of Napoleon Hill? Are you familiar?
I do not believe so, but it definitely is something that I'm about to add to my reading list because
Brother, two things to add to your reading list, and everyone listening too. A lot of people listening are familiar with Napoleon Hill because we talked about him on the show. But the book Think and Grow Rich is the first one I would read. And I'm sure you've heard of Think and Grow Rich at some point, maybe in passing. First one I would pick up. The second one, Outwitting the Devil. Absolutely incredible. And the reason I bring it up is because it's essentially a conversation that Napoleon Hill is metaphorically having with the devil. And this book was written in the 1930s, to give you a reference point. Think and Grow Rich was the 1920s. And it's relevant more today than ever. But essentially, Napoleon asks the devil, what is one of the ways in which you take control over people? And the devil said, when they fail and continue to fail, he said, 1 in 10,000 people will continue on after failing 2 to 3 times in any pursuit. And if you think about what we're talking about, you have the belief of, I'll either make my way out of this time or I'll let this time overtake me. But the reality is, if you keep going, and just like you talk about consistency all the time, if you keep going and you keep putting your foot forward, if you keep focusing on growth, there's always going to be a better time around the corner. It's when we stop going for that better time that we're overtaken by these disempowering emotions. But really, even those disempowering emotions, I believe, can be used to serve us. Because if we don't have those periods of life in our early 20s, or you even at the beginning of this year, then how can you know the good if you don't experience the quote unquote bad, right? Without the bad, there can't be any good.
And that's something that I can definitely agree and piggyback off of, because that's what my show basically stands for, is that acknowledgement of your past and knowing that it's in the past. You can't change it. You know, you need to focus on the present and not really the future to an extent, because tomorrow is not promised. Only thing that counts right now is today, and that's where it all starts. When you're going through something, or if you're having a hard time trying to get through something, it's best to focus on more of the solution than it is the problem. And as you mentioned, you know, with Napoleon Hill and his books, the 1920s to 1930s, is actually my next episode I have coming out about generational differences, and how I think as generation got more advanced and technology became more evolved, I think that our generation became more emotionally detached from our true selves. And what you said, you know, being written in the 1920s, 1930s, that shows that if we were being receptive and open-minded to the things that, you know, were written before our time, it can have a lot more valuable information than what it did, you know, back in its time period.
Yes, I feel like that book's even more relevant now than it was back then, before the Great Depression, before World War II. He was writing about those things, but I feel like a lot of the things in the social climate that we're experiencing are more relevant from that book than even when that book was written. There's something that I wanted to go back to, something that you said earlier, and I asked you about your gift, and you said, I don't even know if I'd want to call it a gift, maybe more of a purpose than a gift. And I understand why you said that. And I'd like to throw a couple cents in here as well and say that I believe that everyone has a gift, right? And I believe that the idea of a gift and purpose is different. And I believe that our unique gifts, right, our uniqueness, which you also talk about, attributes to what our purpose actually is. So for those people who are saying, I'm not sure what my purpose is, I'm not sure what I should be focusing on right now, I'm not sure what I should do for a career or business or for a relationship or anything, the question I would ask is, well, what are you great at? What is something that you've always been inherently good at? And you recognized your gift very early on, and now you're using that gift for your purpose. And your purpose is, you've got your podcast currently, you're going to school, you're helping these disadvantaged children, right? You're doing all these incredible things in the name of good through the use of your gift, right? It reminds me of when I started in sales when I was 18. I started in sales as a kid fresh out of high school taking online classes. And I immediately became top on the team in sales. I had no previous experience. I did receive training. It wasn't the best training. I got there because my gift was persuasion. And it always has been persuasion. It's just something I've always had. Some people call it the gift of gab. I would call it intentional language in the way of speaking. But I didn't know that at the time, right? And I was like, well, why am I jumping to the top of this board? And then other people through the years made point to say it's because of your natural knack of persuasion, right? So now I've taken that, and now we have the Be Better broadcast, where I'm able to bring on incredible guests like yourself and share stories and learnings and principles in the attempt to persuade the audience to take one or two of these things and implement them in their life. And if they do that over the course of 100 episodes, they're going to be in a more positive place as a result. So I found my gift later than you did. How would you recommend that those who are unsure of their gift can find and recognize what their gift actually is?
As you mentioned, find what makes you happy, and not only makes you happy, but you would end up doing it for absolutely free. It has no benefit towards you, or at the time you see no benefit from it, as in podcasting and doing like entertainment. Obviously, there's monetization, things like that, but that's not the goal. The goal is to make an impact, and whether it's to one person or a million people, as long as I can say I did everything I could to impact as many people as I could, and understand that I gave it 110%, then I'm able to be satisfied with my effort. But with that being said, I never want to become comfortable, because you always want to be able to achieve more than what you have achieved today or what you will achieve in the future. But for anybody who needs help finding their gift, it starts with self-reflection, understanding what you are passionate about, and what do you feel like you're more called towards or gravitate towards. And I think we all, 100%, I do believe that we all know what our gift is. It just, like I said, takes that time to meditate, self-reflect, and think about the times in your life to where you have the most vivid memories, the most of the best emotions tied to these experiences, the most peaceful, where your peace is at, and that will help you lead you, not if to closer to figuring out what your gift is.
Beautifully said, brother. I 100% agree. And there's something about you that I don't believe I had at 25, which is you clearly lean into who you are as a unique human being. And when I was 25, I had just been promoted to a leadership position where I was training new salespeople. I had a certain image that I had to portray. I had an authority that I wanted to portray. And in order to improve, I watched a lot of videos of people like Tony Robbins, who I'm sure you're familiar with, and people like Jim Rohn and Eric Thomas and all these big authoritative figures who had great communication skills. And I said, I wanted to be more like them, right? I want to be more like them. I want this characteristic, this characteristic. And I feel like that was very beneficial for me. But at the same time, there was an element of me becoming more like that person than leaning into my own uniqueness and who I am. And I feel like now I'm on the path to leaning into that uniqueness of who I am more. I'm certainly not close to being where I want to be, but I feel that now I have the awareness of I want to be me. I want to be more of myself while still taking the traits and characteristics from these other figures and combining them with who I am. But you have leaned into who you are. You know, at least at this present moment, like you mentioned, be in the present, you know at this present moment what you want to do. This idea of uniqueness, is there a way, I know this is kind of ethereal, but it could be useful for those listening. Is there a way to lean into your uniqueness? And what does uniqueness even mean? How would you define it?
Something that is going in a different route than what is socially normal, or what society seems as you being a normal person. It's something that you have to embrace, For example, I use my past. I have albinism, which means I'm visually impaired. Without my glasses, I am legally blind, things like that. And in high school and elementary, I always had, times where people would, say things such as, if I don't when I focus, I have one of my eyes would go like this and do like a little lazy eye thing, and so people used to call me Squintin' Quentin. Um, and
Wow.
so yeah, and then people used to, because like I said, if you didn't realize earlier before the show, you told me to go into the settings. I had to get a little closer to the screen, so
Mm.
people used to mimic me doing that. Um, and through that, I didn't see what good can come out of it until one day I went to an Auburn football game with one of my friends, and one of my mom's coworkers had mentioned that she had seen me out of everybody in the stands, over 70,000 plus people, or how many ever I can't remember the exact number of the amount of the capacity of the stadium, but it was a lot of people there. And to notice me really made me realize that I am unique and I do stick out, and the message that I have is also unique, and that's where I've learned to embrace that uniqueness, and that things that differentiates me from everybody else, and use it to bring people closer to themselves, both eternally, personally, spiritually, whatever the case might be, to help them understand how they are supposed to use their uniqueness to better the lives of themselves and the people around them.
What is the social norm? What does society push us in the direction of versus the uniqueness that you're talking about?
Um, People would say ideally anybody who embraces their mental health awareness, anything like that is not as pushed as it should be. What else? Um, Anything that goes against men being the head of the household, supporting the wife, not pitting his burdens or problems on her, but holding them in as far as being strong, quote unquote, being strong or tough, or strong willed. Um, and what else? I think that's all that I could think of at that time.
Yeah.
But what, as far as uniqueness is, what I mean is going against that, especially like I said, men in specific, for example, um, being able to be open about mental health, acknowledging it, understanding that not everybody has the same mindset, not everybody thinks the same. You have to be open minded to what people say, and learn to be different. In the aspect of what you expect from yourself and what the world expects from you. You have to go and be focused more on what you expect for yourself and those expectations, rather than what the world has as far as set, expectations for you, because you know yourself better than anybody else, and you are able to dictate how you live your life and how you utilize your uniqueness to benefit, the people or
Hmm.
the audience that you're trying to benefit. And that brings you back to Eric Thomas, as you mentioned, trying to model yourself or train yourself to be more like them. I feel like it's something, because Eric Thomas has been somebody I listened to since high school,
Love Eric
uh,
Thomas.
very much, and to see the things that he's been through and the messages he has. I think some people are just uh, introduced to that message to be um, a absorbing sponge to that information he has, and also some who purpose is deeper as well as more influential, such as such as his presence is. Um, Learn to not model yourself after him, because that's not his goal. But his goal is to set you up with the self motivation and self determination that you need in order for you to be as impactful as he is. Because everybody, like you said, everybody has a different gift. Um, and although some might seem similar and have a similar purpose, they all are delivered differently, and the people that may not relate to him might relate to me. People who might not relate to me might relate to you, etc., etc.
Well said. I like what you said about the expectations that society sets versus the expectations that we set for ourselves. Because when you said that, I thought back to when I was in that period of my life where I was unhappy, I was depressed, I was constantly anxious. And the main reason that I was in that place was because I was operating on societal norms. I mean, the whole reason I got into sales was to make money because I thought that making money was the best thing that I could possibly do at that point. Not learn, not develop myself, but make money, right? And I did. And like I said, I was top of the board. I was making a lot of money. I didn't know how to use that money. So I was spending all that money on things that I didn't need, guitars, computers, the whole sort. And the main thing, man, was I had no self expectations. I had no plan for myself. Everything changed once I started creating expectations for myself. I started with my physical body. I had a mentor, a leader at the company I worked with, who was like, dude, you got to lose weight, man. I was like 60 pounds heavier than I am now. He's like, you'll feel better. You'll look better. You just got to do it. Take my word for it. And now he's like a world-class power lifter. This guy, his name's Keith O'Dell. He's literally world ranked. He's benches almost 1,000 pounds. Incredible dude.
Yes.
And at the time he wasn't this guy, but he was very versed in health. And I started to set expectations and I started to create goals. And within 6 months, I was able to lose 60 pounds. And then I realized I set a goal and I achieved the goal. What else can I set a goal in and achieve? And I went away from what society wanted and I went towards what I wanted, because society is two sides. One side would say, hey man, excellent work on losing that weight, right? And the other side would say, you should have loved yourself the way that you were, right? So there's two sides to that coin, but I went away from the coin entirely and went and did what I wanted to do. In that book I was just talking about, Outwitting the Devil, he talks about the idea of drifters, right? And how the devil, and by the way, I'm not really, I didn't grow up a specific religion, anything like that. I believe in God. I've talked about this before on the show. I am spiritual. So when I talk about the devil, I don't want those who listen to literally, think that I'm just going off on the religious tangent. That's not the point I'm making. Yeah. But Napoleon Hill talks about how the devil takes its hold on those who drift. And he talks about drifters as people who are exactly what you mentioned. They don't have their own expectations. They're just going with the flow of society. And if I could give one message to those listening, whether you're young, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever it might be, whatever generation you're in, I would say assess what your personal expectations are right now and create a plan forward in any area, right? You said be in the present, and I agree. And I'd say be in the present and keep one eye. You mentioned one eye going that way, one eye going this way. Keep one on the present and keep one on the future, but then look back to the present, right? So because with you, I know that you're not 100% always in the present because you have podcast goals and you have educational goals. So I know you're looking forward, but you're not just staying there. You are staying in the present moment most of the time while still looking forward. And there's value in the past as well, but the value in the past is looking at what went wrong and how you can improve based on those mistakes. So create a plan, set your own expectations, and move forward one step at a time towards that plan.
Exactly. And that's, something that I have embraced, and that's why I changed my brand into not the Truth Tells podcast, because that's just a show. I want to have different shows, but I don't want to limit myself by just calling it the Truth Tells podcast, because like I said, that just limits it to one show. So my new company, new brand is coming out right now, starting today.
Cool.
It's going to be Plan to Prevail. So it's going to be instead of 2 T-O, it's T-O-O. And it's like a double meaning or triple meaning, I guess. 2 is to mean to exceed more than enough. So you have to, expect to beat the odds that are given against you and plan to prevail, which is, self-explanatory. But also, you have to, like you said, create a plan in order for you to prevail through those trials that you're faced with. And in order for you to do that, you have to assess what's going on, the areas of improvement, which there are always areas of improvement, as well as having those self expectations for yourself, to be able to help you create a guideline that you would like to follow in order to, set yourself up for success, not only in the good times, but also in the bad as well.
So true. So true. If you had to give a message to the people who were where you used to be. So actually, let's give a message to the 11-year-old Quenton who has lost his father. Okay. What would you say to him if you could go back being the man that you are now? What would you say to that 11-year-old Quenton to help him through that time into becoming the best version of himself?
Um, if I were to go back and talk to myself, I wouldn't say that I would give advice to help avoid situations, but I would better set myself up to be prepared for the situations that I'm going to go through. Because without those events or experiences that I went through, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have come to the realization of what my purpose is without those events. So I wouldn't try to, you know, give a blueprint on how to avoid those situations, but I would just say, hey, focus on your mental health. Be prepared because you will be tested, as you've seen so far after losing your father, and watching your mother work hours after hours to make ends meet. Which is not saying that I had a poor childhood, because I was very privileged. But as far as emotionally not being able to help her really hurt me, and not be able to help her really had an effect on me growing up, which is why I believe I did some of the things that I did. And I would just say, prepare yourself, get ready for the bumpy road, buckle your seatbelt, but know that at the end of the road, you will reach a destination that at one point it is where you always desired to be, but at one point where you reach that destination, a new destination will begin or be given to you. And so you constantly are exceeding past the desires and endeavors that you have set for yourself.
That's a beautiful message. And I'm sure that 11-year-old would either say, yeah, right, man, you don't know my life, or they'd say, thank you. I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. I'm going to write it down so I have it wherever I go. Now, Truth Tales. What inspired you to begin your show? You said over a year ago. What inspired you to begin your show? And what can people expect when they tune into the Truth Tales podcast?
Well, the Truth Tales podcast is what really made me pick that name. For one, I think that would need some type of explanation as well, because it is truly where my journey began. But the Truth Tales podcast is the Truth Tales, which is, if you listen and you're open-minded, the truth behind everything that I say, which is debatable whether it's true or not. It's to each its own. But in some aspect, I do know that what I'm saying is coming from someone that is been through the experiences that I've been through, and not saying that have been through the worst things in the world, because people are going through things that are a lot worse. But I do know, and I have some wisdom. And although it might not always be true, you have to be open-minded to be able to analyze what I say in order for you to be able to have that better or most effective self-reflection. So the Truth Tales, that's why I said the Truth Tales, but I had TALES because I like to utilize my own stories and experiences to add credibility and make it more relatable to people, to let them know that people do go through those things. It's okay to acknowledge those emotions, and it's better for your mental health to acknowledge those things and experiences that you've been through, to better set yourself up for that success. And I believe, like I said, I just recently began feeling that passion that I had when I first began the podcast, times 10. And it was just, I was actually doing acting. I went to LA, everything. I was in a Mass Singer promo, doing a backup dancer for things like that. All 3 seconds of
Wow.
glory that I had, but it was due to me feeling as if I wanted to make a difference, and I love the aspect of being center of attention and being that in the entertainment business. But I think that it was a different approach, and I feel like being a character, although I can turn that character into myself, I wasn't being 100% authentic, and I wasn't, spreading a message that I thought was needed the most focus or needed the most attention. And so that's what brought me to the podcast. Is I knew that it was a way for me to provide that entertainment aspect and be the center of attention, as well as provide a impactful message that someone can listen to and take something away from, as far as valuable information that will help you become more educated on how to have a more effective self reflection, and be able to have that self regulation to get through those times. So that's what you can intel or expect with my show, is methods on how to better handle situations, as well as reassurance that you can get through those situations. No situation is too tough for you to beat. You can always find a way to prevail if you set a plan and you stay consistent and persistent at the same time. And that's, although, like I said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Not everybody agrees with what I say. I know that. But there is a group of people who do agree. And there's a group of people that I will help, and that will find my information very valuable, and gain a lot of wisdom from what I have to say. Even at 25 years old, I think I have a keen amount of, or a good amount of wisdom that I can pass on, based off of my past experiences and the knowledge that I've gained spiritually through Bible verses, things like that. And so I think that's really what really started me with it all, was having that realization that my purpose is way bigger than what I thought it was, and the impact that I want to make is much bigger than just um, providing entertainment or making people laugh, which I love doing anyways. I'm a jokester, class clown, but understanding that I was going in the right direction, but I needed to have a little bit more self reflection and self recognition of what I needed to improve on, to kind of be able to go back into the past and think about what really I was passionate about and what really kept me going, to really ignite my passion for the impact that I want to have on, like I said, community globally, personally, whatever the case might be. Um, I was able to understand that passion, and like I said, that really what ignited my goal and my dedication to the podcast, and the purpose that I have for myself, as for helping other people.
It's great that you came to that realization. And I know that your podcast is helping a lot of people. And for the audience, if you're resonating with what Quenton is sharing right now, then you got to go check out the Truth Tales podcast. There is a link in the description that will take you right to the podcast. I'll link the Apple podcast, but you can find it wherever you listen to your podcasts. And Quenton, this was a really awesome conversation, brother. It's been great getting to get a glimpse into your mind and into the reasons you do what you do, as well as your unique story. And I am grateful that you've come on the show, shared your story, shared some of your wisdom. And I know that for those who want to learn more, they can find more from you on social media. So where is the best place that people can find and continue to follow you?
It would be my Instagram, the Truth Tales Podcast 1. and I believe that's right. I had a whole situation happen with my first Instagram account, which I explained in one of my podcast episodes, which is a very, very interesting story. If you guys want to learn about that, you can go listen to my episode on that. But I will double check and see.
We'll put a link in the.
Yeah.
There'll be a link in the description.
But my Instagram is the best way, which has my link tree, which has my email, things like that. I'm always open for new communication, new feedback from people, what I can improve on, and just hearing how my messages help them. But I'm available on Facebook and things like that. But the best communication would probably be Instagram or through email.
Awesome. We'll put those in the description for those listening and watching. Go down there, check it out, and go see what Quenton is up to, as well as his podcast, the Truth Tales podcast. Quenton, it's been a lot of fun, brother. Thanks for coming on the show. Great chatting with you. I look forward to see what you do moving forward. And again, congrats on the new addition, the soon-to-be addition to your family, brother. It's huge.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me on, and congratulations to you as well. And I wish you and your family nothing but many blessings and just true success in the rest of the things that you have desired and have set for your family as far as goals and expectations.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Again, and have a blessed one, man.
You too, man. This has been a very genuine conversation, a conversation around purpose and passion and authenticity and uniqueness. And really, those last two, authenticity and uniqueness, go together. It's one thing to take away characteristics and skills from those you aspire to be more like, and it's another thing to combine those with your own unique gifts and talents and use those to move forward towards your purpose. I hope that this conversation with Quenton helps you to find and locate your own gifts so that you can use them towards your next expectations that you shall set for yourself. Call them goals, call them expectations, call them a plan, call them what you will. The point is, will you go with what society wants you to do, or will you do what you want to do and carve your own path forward? Quenton is obviously doing that with his many pursuits, and you can go click the links in the description to check out the Truth Tales podcast as well as Quenton's Instagram page, and I'll include his email down there as well so that you can reach out to him if you want to do so. So thank you so much for watching and listening. If this episode was helpful, then please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. You're the reason the show has grown over the past 2 years without any ads, without any sponsors, because you are the best part of the Be Better team. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.